Um, okay, so RESPs. All right, we're going to talk about RESPs today. This is Bill Munn. I'm Jessica Deacon at Bowie Financial, and I'm wearing a mask because I'm in the office. Halloweeny, October. Okay, so RESPs, I know I have some questions, but I think I'll just let you go into it first, and then I'll ask my questions kind of whenever I feel like it.
All right. So RESPs, which are Registered Education Savings Plans, have had a major renovation a few years ago. They used to be very restrictive. They used to be available only if you went to a certain university. There was no way to get your money out if you didn't. There was a lot of people were afraid of them. So the government actually came to the realization that they have so much student debt out there that they better make it easier for people to save for education than go into debt and owe them later. So they did this massive renovation of the RESP probably about 10 years ago. And it has made it very, very attractive for people now to save for education. But you have to be careful where you go to get these RESPs, because not all RESPs are the same. And there are various companies out there, and you tend to see these advertised in doctors' offices and stuff, that advertise for an RESP and have similar benefits, or maybe you could even say the same government benefits that all RESPs have, but how they invest the money and what penalties are attached to it are very, very bad, if you want to call it that. And you have to be aware of these things, because it can be to your detriment if you get into these things versus other RESPs that are available. So I'm just going to touch on one. So I'm not going to mention the company, but it's a company that is very prevalent in RESP stuff. And what they do, and what most of these doctors' offices RESPs do, is they sell units. And each unit has a value. So normally the units are valued at $10 a unit. And what that means is that, let's say you want to put $50 a month into an RESP. Well, then you would buy 5 units, right? 5 units of $10 a unit. And they will invest that money, and they will continue to hopefully earn interest on this money. And at some stage, then they will pay out whenever the RESP is needed. The problem is there is a minimum units that you have to continue. You cannot stop payment. You cannot all of a sudden determine that you want to, for whatever reason, whether it's financial reason or whatever, you can't just stop. You have to continue with a minimum unit, and it's 1 unit is the minimum. So I had a client, for example, who were doing the $50 a month. So they had 5 units. Her husband lost his job, so they wanted to cut back where they could, and they called the RESP people, and they were told that they could drop down to 1 unit, so $10 a month. So then she said, okay, that's reasonable. We can do that. What they didn't tell them is that each unit has a $100 cancellation fee. So right off the bat, she lost $400 by dropping 5 units to 1. And they don't tell you these things. This is in the fine print, and you have to be very, very careful, because all that time that she had been saving money was wiped out by the cancellation fees.
And what's the better option?
So I just want to mention before I get off that topic. So this prominent one, I pulled this from their website, and it says if you have the minimum balance requirements for your RESP, you can miss 1 or more scheduled contributions. However, you will need to make them up later to keep the same number of units in your plan. So there's two problems there. Number one, they talk about the units, as I mentioned before, and then they mention that even if you do take a holiday, so to speak, you have to make it up. So it's no real relief to people who get into difficulty.
No.
The alternative is what we do, and that's done through an insurance company.
Okay.
And an RESP is done through a company called Industrial Alliance. And what they do is they just treat it like a normal investment. It's just like putting money in the bank, or just like putting money into your RSP, your tax free savings account. There is a minimum to open the RESP, and you have to have a minimum of $100, but that's it. You can contribute monthly to this. If you want to stop, you just stop. And the money stays in the RESP and just grows as normal. There are no cancellation fees. There are no fees of $100 unit. There's no units. It's just money in, money out. That's the best way to do it.
So with the RESP, oh, there's lots of feedback. So the government will match you, right?
Okay, so let's get into the RESP specifically. Okay. So there's been a number of major changes to the RESP that will benefit people, benefit families. The first one is that when you start an RESP, it's not it does not end at age 18. It is a 35-year plan.
Okay.
So there is no pressure for you to cash this in at 18, where it used to be. It used to be at 18, that was it. So now you can if your child does not go to post-secondary education at 18, you can just let the money sit there, and maybe they go at 21, or maybe at 18 you take some out, but you don't deplete it all. Well, then just leave the rest in there, and maybe they go back for a refresher course or whatever, and you can reuse it again.
So you can only put money up into a RESP until your child is 18, and then no more?
No, you've got 35 years. You have actually, I should clarify that. You have 31 years of contribution, but the RESP is for 35.
And sorry about that. If the RESP, you can put it up to age 30, when does the government stop giving you a percentage?
That's different. So when you put your money into an RESP, and I'm going to use the Industrial Alliance one as the key one here, because that's the one is the best one. So when you put your money into an RESP, you fill in an application form, and there is two entities to this. There's the subscriber, who can be the parent or the grandparent or aunt and uncle, and then there's the beneficiary, which is the child, right? And when you send this in, you cannot apply for an RESP without a social insurance number for the child. It's not accepted. So you have to get that first before you even apply. Okay? And when you fill this in, you fill in the form, and it's all done online now, is you identify the subscriber and the beneficiary being the child, right? Then you determine how much money a month you want to put in. You can put in $50 a month, you can put in $25 a month, the minimum $100 to start it. And there is what's called a government grant. And what they will do is they will pay up to 20%. They will pay 20% of whatever your contribution is, up to a maximum of $500 a year or $7,200 lifetime. Okay? So yes, there's a government grant, but it's not the full amount. It's only 20%, but it's free money. They're going to give you 20%. So it's like having a 20% rate of return on your money.
How much was the maximum that they'll give to you?
$500 a year.
Okay.
Lifetime maximum $7,200.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, when you put that money in, you then can determine where you're going to invest it. So unlike these plans that are at the doctor's office where they control the investment, you don't. with the Industrial Alliance, you get to pick where you want to put this money. And you can pick anything from GICs to bond funds to equity funds. It's wide open.
So you're putting your money in monthly, but not only is the government giving you 20% up to a certain amount, but you're actually making money because it's also an investment. So you're making money on the money, plus the government's giving you money.
And you invest the government money the same way you invest your own contribution.
That's amazing.
It is, right? Now, the point here is, because this is for education, and normally people who set these things up, the child is very young. They normally have a number of years, probably at least 15 years, for the money to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're investing this money in Industrial Alliance, and remember, this is in a segregated fund, which has all the guarantees that normal segregated funds have. So you got a guarantee of principal, you got a guarantee of resets, you got guarantee of death, you got all that in there. You can look around and find a more aggressive fund to invest in with a higher rate of return, because you have that time for the market to go up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the benefits of that. So I did an RESP last week for a client. And Industrial Alliance have over 200 funds to pick from. So there's a vast majority of funds you can pick from. But I looked around for something that was unique. And they have this thing, and I'm going to show this here. It's called the Global Healthcare Fund.
Oh, I can't see it. Yeah. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
And what's great about this fund is that it's investing in all the healthcare companies like Pfizer and all these people who are involved with the coronavirus. And this fund is going crazy. So just to give you an example, I have to put my glasses on for this. Last year, this fund made 16.2% rate of return. There's a rate of return.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Over 10 years, this has made 14.57% per year.
Amazing.
Well, this is the kind of fund that you put your child's education in. Can you imagine how much money you're going to make on this?
Yeah.
Right now, yes, this is an equity fund, if you want to call it that, right? But it's a moderate equity fund. I don't know if they showed that there, but it's a moderate equity fund. But even if the fund dropped down with a segregated fund guarantees, your growth is all guaranteed. So why wouldn't you do that? And you don't get this kind of stuff with the doctor's office RESPs.
And you're able to
That's why.
right, and you're able to go in there and make resets. You can
Yes.
So you're watching we would watch the how does that work?
Like with all investments that are done with insurance companies, you get a 6-month statement.
Perfect.
So you can make changes, you can add, you can do things like that. What I do for my clients, and this is just me, is I monitor them, and I send emails to my clients every 6 months because, you know, let's be honest, you get an envelope from the insurance company and maybe you just don't even open it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm there to be proactive. I'm there to make sure. And what I do many times with my clients is, and this is just my rule of thumb, if their investments are going up more than 10%, I reset to lock in the growth.
Awesome.
You as a client have to request that reset. And many clients just ignore it and they just forget about it, but I don't. I make sure that we lock in that growth.
You want the most for your clients, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one of the big features of the RESP is the ability to invest in funds like this. And that's not just your contribution, the government grant gets invested in that as well. Right? Now, let's talk about the other side of it. Okay?
Okay.
When it's time to withdraw this money, the other big change that the government made to the RESP, it used to be you had to go to college or university. Now it's wide open. As long as there's proof of enrollment, you can go to hairdressing school, you can go to trade schools, you can go to correspondence course, whatever. So they've made it a lot easier to get the money out. So when it's time to withdraw, you have to do two things. You have to fill in a withdrawal form,
Okay.
and you have to provide proof of enrollment. And the proof of enrollment has to provide details like, are you full-time or part-time? When does your course start? What kind of courses are you taking? But you get all this stuff when you enroll anyway. So you just send this into the company, and they will pay out whatever you need to the beneficiary. So it gets paid out to the child, not to the parent, because they figure the tax bracket of the child is very low, because either they're only a summer job or they're not working at all, and there's no tax to be paid on the withdrawals that come up.
Okay.
Right? And as I said at the start of this video, you have the option to withdraw some of it, all of it, some of it, and then just leave the rest in there until it's a refresher course. The one I just did actually this morning, a withdrawal where the beneficiary, he's now 24. We did a first withdrawal at 18, not all of it, but now he's going back, and we're doing the rest of it now at 24.
Had there been money going into it? Like once you're withdrawing, could money still be going back into it for like later?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Deposits by the subscriber, by the parent or the grandparent, can continue until 31 years. The government grant stops at 18. Right? So the government grant will go until 18, and then that's it.
So what is so I'm gonna obviously get RESPs for my smaller kids, because it's just saving you a lot of money when you want to fork out like $20,000 for a course. But my eldest, which I also have to pay for education for, is just turned 16. So what would be the best option that way, since I have to pay for it anyways, but I should probably get an RESP and get some government money now, right?
Yes, but you're not going to get it for very long.
No.
That's the point, right? So you have to make a decision. Is it worth to do that, or is it maybe just take that money and put it into a tax-free savings account for him? You could do that.
Right.
You're not going to get any government grant, but it's maybe easier access than the RESP.
Okay.
And what if he doesn't go to post-secondary?
Well, he's gonna.
Okay. Okay. He's no choice. Right. Okay. So now, at the end of the day, if there is money left over, or if worst case scenario, your child does not go anywhere, you can transfer the balance of that RESP into your own RRSP, Registered Retirement Savings Plan, right? Now, you have to have enough room in your RSP to transfer, and the government grant gets paid back to the government. Not the interest it made, just the principal. So that 20% that they give you has to be paid back by the government because it's not being used for education.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's like the final solution, so to speak. You can, as I mentioned before, you can have these for 35 years, so you don't have to do this. I would even encourage people whose kids at 18 don't want to go to post-secondary education not to do anything, because they may change their mind.
Yeah.
They may come back to them at 25 and say, oh, I really want to do this and I want to go to a night school or whatever. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Right? It's still earning interest while it's there, so you're not losing any money. And some people who have maximized everything, to be honest, some people have maximized everything, their RSPs, their tax-free savings account, everything else, will take out an RESP on their child, not for the child, or for themselves. That's another investment vehicle. I'm
still taking courses. Like I took a $2,400 course last year. I want to take a $3,500 course this year. Like it's crazy. Like courses, they add up. So it would be good to have. How much? I looked at a course for my son, $20,000. Looked at another one, $8,000 plus all the. Yeah, it's expensive. School's expensive.
So they've made it easier to get. They've made it easier to invest. They've made it easier to withdraw. And to be honest, if you have young children, this is a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do this? because it's not like you're throwing away your money. All you're doing is helping your child potentially and investing money that will come back to you at the end.
And so you can get up to $500 a year from the government. So what is that? 20%, $500 is 20% of what?
So you can get, they will pay you 20% of whatever you put in.
Up to $500.
Up to a maximum of 500.
Okay.
Right. So that works out to be, I think, $2,500 a year, I think.
So could you do that in one lump sum? If I was like, oh, I'm going to put $2,500 right now to get that 500.
Yes. You don't have to do the monthly payments. You can do one lump sum, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So if you wanted to, and I had a client do this. She just wanted to get the maximum government benefit and no more. So she put in $2,500 a year, right? And that's it. So the $2,500 guaranteed $500 from the government, which was 20% of $2,500.
So if I did that, would that be beneficial for me instead of a TFSA, do you think, for my son who just turned 16 to just put in the $2,500 this year and the $2,500 next year to get?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, sure.
That's an extra grand, right?
Yeah.
And then open a TFSA for him as well to have.
Why not? Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Sure.
That makes sense.
But you can put in more than that.
Right.
You could put in $3,000 or $4,000 a year, but you're only going to get $500 from the government.
But then you're also getting all of the money back from the investments, right? Like you showed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. You're always going to get. Now, the other point to you is if you go to the tax-free savings account, that investment I showed you is also available in the tax-free savings account.
Absolutely.
Bear in mind that the maximum the government will give any child is $7,200.
Yep.
So once you get to that, you get no more.
Except
that's
for
the lifetime maximum, right?
Yeah. Okay. Sweet.
So the minimum is $25 a month. Why wouldn't you?